Hi, and welcome to Today's Entrepreneur. I'm Janet Zapala. Thank you for joining us. Speaking of entrepreneurs, we've got the chairman of the board with us today, Steve Games. Welcome to the show, first of all. It is great to have you here.
It's my pleasure, Janet. My pleasure.
You have been described as an innovator, a motivator in residential real estate sales for over 35 years. I know it all began pretty much in... Wow, when you think about it.
I didn't realize it was that long.
It all began in 1975, right, when you got your real estate broker's license.
That's correct.
So let's go back to that time and tell us what transpired from that point.
Well, I had come back from Vietnam and I had spent 8 years there on and off over different cruises and responsibilities. And when I came home, I really wanted to find something that I'd be good at, and I didn't want to be an electronic technician. I come from a long line of engineers, and I always thought they were a little bit more reserved than I was. And so, although I had a good engineering background, I felt that it was necessary to do something that would tie into perhaps a sales ability that I had recognized early in my life.
How did you recognize that? What gave you the first
Well,
inkling?
my father gave it to me, who is a war hero and a longtime aeronautical engineer. And I had asked him one time whether or not he thought I should take a job in the Hollywood Bowl as a prom captain, or whether I should take a salesman's job. And he thought about it, as most engineers would, and he came back to me and said he'd take the prom captain job, but I should take the salesman's job.
You like that? See, he saw something in you.
And instead of making $10 a night, I drove a brand new Corvette to and from Glendale High School and made a fortune as a salesman in the Hollywood Bowl.
And you were the envy of all your fellow students, I'm sure.
I don't know if I was an envy, but I certainly was talked about. So yeah, it was quite an experience. I didn't do well in school. And in not doing well in school, I of course got the opportunity to serve my country, because in 1966, the Vietnam War was rolling, and for me it was probably the greatest thing that happened. Even in becoming an entrepreneur, it was something that taught me the discipline and the commitment that was necessary, not just to myself, because as an entrepreneur you're never alone. If you're not guiding or directing somebody, you're not winning. And so it taught me respect and leadership. And it was a tough war, and it was a tough time to be an American, but it was a great time also.
And talk about risk, the risk you took.
Well, I always like to say that the gentlemen that were being shot at were in a much more risky position than me, but in terms of a job, I had the most dangerous job in the world. I was a flight deck troubleshooter on an aircraft carrier, and I have all my parts.
Look
so
at you.
I'm very happy with that, and
good for you.
We had to keep each other alive, so it was a really amazing experience.
And I bring up risk because as an entrepreneur, of course, you have to take risks.
Well, and that's an interesting thing, because I learned about risk on the ship. I decided that I couldn't go back without any education at all. So I decided to go to the library on the ship. You work endless hours, and I went to the library and read a John Maynard Keynes book, or started to anyway. He was the father of modern economics of my time. And so I opened up the book and I looked at it, and it said, "Profit is directly proportionate to risk, John Maynard Keynes." I closed the book and I was done with economics.
That's all you needed to know.
That was it. That was it. I've built my entire life on the fact that if you can assess things, evaluate them, and then take the risk, you're probably more likely to be a success than not. If you evaluate things, assess them, and then are unwilling to take the risk, then you should be an engineer.
So there is the differentiation.
There's a position for
right
everybody.
there.
These are brilliant people that all have opportunity, but you have to do what your heart tells you. And risk for me was never as scary as it was for all the other adult members of my family, who I think are all smarter than me.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about how you started, because you were not an entrepreneur to begin with.
That's correct. I think whenever you're in sales, because you're the only one in the room when the sale is being made, you probably are an entrepreneurial spirit. But most more major sales organizations are corporations, and so I worked for a very, very large developer who was able to develop a tremendous amount in Southern California. And I would suggest for anybody becoming an entrepreneur that first working for somebody that has the money to trust you to be able to do something that is of risk is a brilliant way to go. So Mr. Watt, who was Watt Industries, and I believe he was the head of the Board of Regents of USC and a number of other things, was just a tremendous opportunity for me.
He obviously saw something in you as well and believed in you, and then you delivered big time. You sold the Landing, the condominium project. It was 100% pre-sold.
Yes.
That's
amazing.
In
fact, Mr. Watt could not build it until I sold it because he was unable to get a loan at that time for the construction. The prices were very high and it didn't seem necessarily like there were comparables for it. So he asked me to pre-sell the project and I did that.
Can I ask you, at that time, how old were you?
Well, I was probably 34, 35, but I looked like I was about 18. It was a tragic age look. People would go, "What's this kid doing here?" You know, and I think you can overcome that too.
Well, speaking of tragic, though, the Landing that you pre-sold ended up burning down, but that also created a huge opportunity for you.
Yeah, I think if I were to look at anything in my life that has helped me with success, it has been those challenges that come along when you just think you're on top of the world and somebody pulls the rug out from underneath you. At least for me, I have tenacity and I have staying power, and I'm always willing to get up before anybody else after the fire or after whatever's occurred and go out and do it one more time.
And you did it in 1985 when you founded Pickford Realty.
That's correct. That's correct.
So that really catapulted you, didn't it?
Well, it was slow, but it was certainly entrepreneurial. You know, we operated under the cigar box theory, which was interesting. The cigar box theory is basically you bring money in, you put it in the cigar box, you pay the bills. If there's no money in the cigar box, the business failed.
Well, that cigar box is all important for sure.
Don't need a big accounting firm.
Well, all you need is a cigar box.
That's right.
All right, Steve, so interesting, your history. We're going to talk a little bit about where you are right now as a hugely successful entrepreneur and, again, chairman of the board. We're back right after this.